While ginger is often used in baked goods for its peppery sweet taste and subtle warmth, it can just as easily be added to savory dishes. Today, organic ginger farmer Casey Steinberg is here to teach us about this versatile root. Then I'll use ginger in 2 delectable recipes: Molasses-Ginger Crisps and Ginger-Pear hand pies. Plus, baker and cookbook author Joanne Chang is here to share her recipe for lemon ginger scones. All today on Martha Bakes. Ginger was once more commonly available dried and powdered, but it can now be found fresh at local farmers markets, thanks in large part to Casey Steinberg. Casey is credited with helping pioneer the cultivation of organic ginger throughout the Northeast. And I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Because this is the most beautiful ginger I have seen outside of the mountains in Darjeeling, India. That was the last time. I would like to see that. Last time I saw it growing, and it was all in flower when I was there.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
It is magical stuff
and
all around.
And it's so tasty when it's fresh like this. And how did you become interested, first of all, in growing it and then become such an expert?
Well, we have an organic farm in Amherst, Massachusetts, in the Pioneer Valley, with lots of other farms. It's a really beautiful valley, rich soils, a lot of skilled growers, and we wanted to offer something that wasn't currently available locally, something that was delicious, something we like to eat. And we've been experimenting with ginger on a much smaller scale, sort of a houseplant scale. And we thought, wow, this could really be our niche.
And so in Amherst, Massachusetts, where it gets a good cold winter, how do you grow it?
It is grown basically as an annual because it's true, it's a tropical plant. We have a hard freeze in the winter, and this would not withstand a freeze. No. So we plant it early in the spring and tend to it all summer long. We just start harvesting early fall, September, and it grows.
But this is some beautiful plant. Look at this, everybody.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
And you just harvested that when?
I harvested that yesterday.
Yesterday.
And it's amazing. You dig the plant, and even before you break any of the pieces or before you touch it, even just releasing the plant from the soil, it smells like ginger.
Boy,
it's quite
so
magical.
Incredible.
And so this piece here, I actually brought a little piece of seed for you. It's a lot like growing a potato, where you put an old potato, a piece of seed
like
potato in the ground.
Potato,
last year's potato, and you put that in the ground. So you can see this ginger looks much different than this one in that.
So if I put this in the ground, it wouldn't grow.
Correct.
But this would grow.
This would.
It's calloused.
It's sort of the. Dry. This is the the gateway to which this grows.
Oh boy!
Most of it goes fresh in this form, so we'll harvest it. We'll break off all the feeder roots and snip off the top.
Rarely do you see that in the market. I don't see that in the market, except at farmers markets.
Yeah, and I think most of the reason behind that is because it's much more perishable than something like this, which has a protective skin. It's cured.
So that has to be used immediately.
You need to refrigerate it, or you can keep it long-term by freezing it or making it into some sort of product.
So I see that there are many, many products that emerge from ginger, the ginger root. What do you make?
We make a ginger syrup here, and this is our organic ginger, organic cane sugar, and a little bit of organic lemon juice.
Oh, so I could use that for tea.
You could use that for tea, and actually there's some here. This is just fresh ginger steeped in hot water. No sweetener, because I didn't know how you like your tea. You could use ginger syrup, or we also make a ginger honey, which is our ginger pressed with Vermont honey, organic cider vinegar.
So the essence of the ginger, the juice of the ginger?
Yeah, it's if you took this and ground it all up and pressed it and added that with honey.
How beautiful.
We also use some of the ginger to make some dried products, spice blend. You know, this has dried ginger, salt, garlic, maple sugar, a loose tea, chai, which is ginger and turmeric, which we also grow on the farm, a little bit of cinnamon, cloves, star anise.
My daughter drinks a lot of chai.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, it's
chai
good.
Latte.
You're welcome to try that one. And then this is the base.
Yeah, that's what we make ginger snaps out of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So, and what's this?
This is a cocktail. This is a ginger old fashioned, which is a great warming winter drink, even though it has an ice cube in it. And so this has ginger syrup. You
Maybe
can also
I'm ready
use the honey.
for one of these.
Should we cheers?
Oh,
Here, actually, there's one more ingredient that you need for this.
A slice?
You need a little slice. Make a little slit there.
Oh, your garnish.
I'm garnishing. Every good drink deserves a good garnish.
Bourbon sour.
Cheers. So it's
Oh, really good.
1/4 ounce of ginger syrup, 2 ounces of bourbon, and a dash of botanical bitters, a dash of citrus bitters.
Delicious. And bourbon.
And bourbon, and bourbon. And
Bourbon,
ice.
bourbon. Better put that down, otherwise I won't be able to finish our interview.
Yeah, let's stop.
So what's the difference between this ginger and the ginger root that we buy in the supermarket?
The main difference in my eyes is really source. One of the main reasons why we started growing it here is because all of the ginger that we buy in the stores is shipped from a pretty far distance.
Oh, really?
China, Peru, a lot of what we consider as food miles. And so we figured if we could figure out a way to produce ginger locally, then that really reduces the ecological footprint on that food.
When does it get the skin? When it dries?
No, so that is the crux, and the crux is that our season in Massachusetts is short, our growing
I
season.
see.
And so if we were able to continue its growing temperature, its amount of light, it might continue its life cycle and starting to harden off or form a skin. But because it doesn't form that skin, it's much more perishable.
Well, it's the most beautiful ginger I have ever seen and tasted.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for introducing us to the most beautiful fresh ginger grown right here in the northeast of America. Another great product, and what a nice introduction to all of us about fresh ginger.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
It's no secret that I love ginger cookies, and this recipe is no exception. With ground, crystallized, and fresh ginger, these Molasses-Ginger Crisps couldn't be any more gingery. And they're very easy to make. 2 cups plus 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 1.5 teaspoons of powdered ginger, and that's 1.5 teaspoon, 2, 3. And baking soda. We're using molasses, which is acidic. 1 teaspoon of that. We want to make sure that cookies have a little bit of leavening, and that's baking soda. So mix this all up very well with a whisk, and you can pre-measure 1/3 cup of molasses and cream 2 sticks of butter. It can be at room temperature with 1.5 cups of granulated sugar. And I've already chopped up my candied ginger, or crystallized ginger, they also call it, 2 tablespoons. And we need 1 teaspoon of finely grated fresh ginger. And to peel ginger, I found that the edge of a spoon works the best. Just pull the skin off with the spoon. See how easily that works? You don't have to use a peeler, which will take off more of the skin than you need to. I remember driving through ginger fields in Darjeeling, India. The most beautiful stalks of red flowers and pink flowers. So now, once it's peeled, you can grate. You want to grate 1 teaspoon. Now, the Japanese do have a grater specifically. It's a porcelain grater specifically for ginger, but I'm just using a wood rasp, which is more readily available. And see, the reason we grate it, you don't want all that fiber in your cookie. Leave the fiber behind. And let's see if this will measure a teaspoon. There. That can go right into our butter and sugar. And now 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk. And before I add our crystallized ginger, I'm going to just scrape down the bowl and the beater to make sure we get everything mixed in. It's a good idea to do this once or twice during mixing. Your crystallized ginger, 2 tablespoons. And now dry, alternating with your 1/3 cup of molasses. Molasses gives these cookies a beautiful dark color. So this looks very nicely mixed. Release your beater and the bowl. Scrape everything down and give it a few more stirs. And then cover with plastic wrap and chill for about an hour or overnight. So now this is going to take me quite a while. This is a lot of dough, and I'm using a teaspoon-sized ice cream scoop with a release so that I can release this dough. And I'm going to make lots and lots of rounds, chill them, then roll them into sparkling sanding sugar. So here are all the cookie rounds. Just drop those into your sanding sugar, and I think 12 per tray, 3 across and 4 down. Give enough room for the spread that will occur, and they should be pretty much all the same size. So this makes about 8 dozen cookies, and if you want, you could actually prepare 8 trays with parchment or just save these cookies in the refrigerator for another day until they're all used up. Now your oven should be preheated to 350 degrees, and you bake these cookies till they're flat and the edges are dark golden brown. If your oven is not completely even, rotate halfway through the baking process. But already they look beautiful, and they're definitely worth the time it takes to make them. Into the oven, set your timer. So when the cookies come out of the oven, transfer them to a wire rack to cool completely. The cookies can be stored in an airtight container for 2 days at room temperature. You can also put the container in the freezer and they will last for a long time. These cookies can easily be made ahead. You can just make the little balls and freeze those, put them in the refrigerator and just unfreeze them and roll them in sugar and bake them. But I like to serve them like this. A stack of ginger cookies like this, and a scoop of homemade ginger ice cream, like that, and cookies on the side. That is a fine dessert. I love making pies, and today I've decided to bake hand pies, filled with one of my favorite flavor pairings, tangy ginger and sweet pear. The crust is very simple. It's a cream cheese crust, a little bit different from a pâte brisée, 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of coarse salt, and 2 sticks of cold butter. So far, almost the same, a little less flour from a pâte brisée, but now is the difference. 6 ounces of cold cream cheese cut into small pieces. And just get this right into the food processor and pulse. It doesn't take too long to break up the butter, which is a little harder than the cream cheese. And now measure out the water. Because of the cream cheese, you're not going to need a whole half a cup of ice water. So we're going to add just about 2 or 3 tablespoons. There. That should be the right consistency. Yes. So that when you get it into your fingers, it holds together nicely. Divide the dough in half and form each into a flat round. Right into the fridge for at least 45 minutes. Now we have everything ready for our pear filling. We'll need 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter, 1 tablespoon of sugar, and a little bit of salt, 1/4 teaspoon. And 2 Bosc pears. Bosc pears are delicious. You can also use, if you like, a Comice pear, that kind of autumn pear, which tastes so very good. And stir this around. This will take about 5 minutes to cook, and then it's going to take about 10 minutes to let them cool. So now in a saucepan, melt 1 stick of unsalted butter, add 3 tablespoons of fresh grated ginger, and the seeds of 1 vanilla bean. So you slit the vanilla bean and scrape, and those little seeds will be your vanilla flavoring. So let this brown in the butter. And now you can prepare the batter part of your filling. So fragrant. 2 eggs, and mix those with 2/3 of a cup of sugar. And you can add your salt, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, fresh lemon juice. And then add 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. And this is your batter. into which you will add your ginger. You want this a little bit toasty color. And we're going to strain this mixture through a sieve. So we have the flavor of that ginger, and we have all the nice butter in our batter. Oh, look at that color. Beautiful. And now add your pears. And here's our filling. Very tasty. So we've rolled out half our dough already, and this is the second half. And you want the dough about 1/8 of an inch thick. And you want 5 rounds this size out of this piece of dough. There. So we need 5. 5. And then you fit these into your muffin tin. This is a standard muffin tin, 12 cup. And you don't even have to butter the little cups. You just press these in carefully and quickly, folding the pastry into, or fluting it, I guess you could call it, making a very pretty little cup. And this only makes 10, so you're going to leave this one and this one empty, or whichever 2 you want to leave empty, it doesn't matter. And if you work quickly, the dough will not get too soft to flute nicely. And then these get filled with our filling. And I like to use a scoop like this. This is about the right size. This is a 1/4 cup scoop. Scoop neatly into the center of the cup. Make sure your oven is preheated to 375 degrees. These are going to chill for a little bit just to firm up the pastry, and then get them into the oven until the crusts are golden brown and the filling is set. And that takes about 35 to 40 minutes. So let these cool in the muffin tins for about 20 minutes, then unmold onto a rack. When they're at room temperature, dust them with some powdered sugar and serve. Enjoy. Boston bakery owner and cookbook author Joanne Chang has baked more scones than you can imagine. Today she's here to share one of her bestsellers featuring a trifecta of ginger. Welcome, Joanne.
Thank you.
It's so nice to have you back.
Thank you.
Why is ginger one of your favorite ingredients?
I love ginger because it's got so much flavor. It's a little bit spicy, a little bit floral, and there's so many different ways you can add it to all of your baked goods.
What made you think to add 3 gingers? I guess it's powdered.
Yep.
It's candied,
Exactly.
and it is fresh grated.
Fresh grated.
To this particular recipe.
Well, again, I really love the flavor of ginger, so I wanted to do kind of a 1, 2, 3 pow with the flavor so that you can really taste it. Because if you're going to eat something ginger, you should definitely taste all the flavor.
So with all the scones that you've baked over the years, are these your favorite?
These are definitely my favorite. I think because of all of the ginger, and lemon ginger tea is so popular because that's such a great flavor. And you get all of that flavor in this scone.
Oh, and lemon. That's why I'm zesting lemon.
Yes, thank
for
you.
Joanne. 2 lemons you want me to zest?
2 lemons,
oh, okay.
please. Yes.
So why don't you proceed with the recipe?
Absolutely. So we start off with 2 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. After I put in the flour, I add 1/3 cup of sugar. These aren't too sweet, so it's just a little bit of sugar. I'm going to continue with the dry ingredients. We have 1/4 teaspoon of salt. There's 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. And then we have 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. We've got both baking powder and baking soda.
Oh, and we're using buttermilk, so that's why we have the baking soda
Right.
also.
It's going to react with the buttermilk
Yes,
and cause a little bit of lift. Then we have 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. So there's ginger number 1, and then 1/2 cup of crystallized ginger. So it's a fair amount of crystallized ginger, but again, you get that great flavor. So I just turn this on to mix that, and then I'm going to add 14 tablespoons of cold butter.
So not quite 2 sticks of
Correct,
butter.
yeah. And my goal here is to mix this just enough so that the butter coats the flour, but I want to keep some of the butter into little chunks.
Okay. Now I've been grating the lemon. That goes into the buttermilk?
Exactly.
Okay.
All of those ingredients go together. There's buttermilk,
1/2 cup.
1/2 cup.
Zest of 2 lemons.
Yes.
1 egg.
And I heard that these were your eggs.
They are. They come
Very
from the
exciting.
farm. And 2 tablespoons of grated ginger.
Yes.
So you peel the ginger root and then you grate what's peeled.
Correct.
Right? And half a cup of heavy cream.
Great. And if you whisk all of that together, and I can smell. So there's a lot of lemon because we really want that lemon flavor, especially to go well with all of the ginger flavor. And then that can go straight into this mixture.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'm just gonna mix this just until it barely comes together. What we really wanna do is leave a little bit of dry because I don't wanna overmix it, because if you overmix it, it ends up being really tough. So now, you can pat this out by hand or you can use a rolling pin. I like using a rolling pin. You get a little bit more of an even surface, and it also keeps your hands off of the batter so that the butter stays cold. And the little butter chunks that you can see in there, that's what's gonna make the scone really flaky. So now I'm gonna cut scones, and these can go on the baking tray. And we're not going to end up getting all of the scones at once, so I take all of these scraps and then just really carefully, I kind of just mush them all together.
What temperature should your oven be at this point?
So we put the oven at about 350 degrees, and then we bake for about 30 to 35 minutes, just until they're golden brown on top.
So Joanne, these have been out of the oven just for about 5 minutes. They're
Just a
still
little
very
bit.
warm.
Yeah. I like to keep them warm because we're gonna put some glaze on them, and I don't want a really thick glaze, so we're gonna glaze them while they're a little bit warm. So I start off, it's a very simple glaze. It's about a cup of confectioner's sugar, and then I'm gonna whisk in just a couple tablespoons of lemon juice. And it's not an exact measurement, you can really just do it by eye. You just want it to be stiff enough so that you can spread it, but not so stiff that it won't go onto the scone. I think that's about right.
And just,
And just brush the whole top. And it gives it like a nice little sheen. And especially because it's warm, it'll start to melt a little bit and get really pretty. And it adds a really nice jolt of lemon. So there's a lot of lemon zest in there, but then the lemon on top really makes kind of the whole
love
yeah.
lemon glaze. I like everything about these scones. And that they're going to be filled with lemon is even better.
So we have some lemon curd to fill, and we also have a little bit of butter if you wanted to add a little bit more butter. You really can't go wrong with these scones. So I would just take one, and you can see how flaky it is because of those big butter chunks, and just split it open and maybe just put a little bit of lemon, just a little added lemon, and then some soft butter on the other side. Probably shouldn't eat it like a sandwich, but I like to eat it like this.
You do?
Yes.
What a gorgeous scone. And what a great idea for using ginger 3 different ways. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And before I start to eat, thank all of you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next episode of Martha Bakes.
My new favorite ingredient is dulce de leche. My pastry chef Miguel taught me how to make this. You take a can of sweetened condensed milk, and you boil it for about 3 hours. And when it's totally cool, you get this amazingly luscious dulce. The way I like to use this, I fill a pastry bag, and then I squeeze it right into the brioche. This is a warm, luscious brioche bun full of dulce de leche. I hope you try this at home and enjoy it as much as I do.